So I guess it fixed it and it went live. Top, top, top of the morning, the afternoon, and the evening to you, whomever you may be, wherever you may be watching, looking, or listening. It's your boy Aunt Mo, trapping out the house. You feel me? I know you can tell that it's a different setup from the last couple shows that you've seen, and that's all good in the hood. You feel me? We had to set up from the crib tonight because we got the kiddos over. You feel me? And so, welcome to another episode of Church Flow, man. And so, let me let you know where this episode is. What this episode is inspired by. My life, and I hope that Tim sees this because it's my life that I'm talking about here. And that's a little insider from. He was really capping on me about my life at one point when he came down here to visit me with the old church I used to be a part of, and he really giving it to me. I ain't gonna lie, he was roasting me, and it was funny until it wasn't funny no more. And then I'm just looking at him. I was like, you give people a couple opportunities to be like, all right, bro, it's enough, nah, you tripping. All right, nah, yeah, nah, you tripping. Nah, I get it, yeah, that was funny, ha ha. And then I was like, bro, this is my life you talking about right now. Like, and then it became this serious moment where he apologized, and I'm like, man, it's all good, bro, but I am dealing with the ramifications of choices I made in my life, and you ain't making it no easier. So it was a little insider, and insider no more. I didn't tell the world, but it was a funny thing that we would share often, like in text messages and stuff like that. But no, this episode is very much inspired by um, my last therapy session. And so within that therapy session, and I've had two thus far, great to be back working, doing the work on myself, being self introspective and seeing parts of me that maybe sometimes I can't see. For those people who have a stigma about therapy, I will be the first to say some therapists just aren't for everybody. Every therapist isn't for anybody. But a lot of the times go, when we're intentional about doing the work, we're able to connect with the right people to get us where we're trying to go. And so it's been a cool journey. But anyway, within the session, there was a lot of cool things that were talked about. There were a lot of things that were brought up, my childhood in particular. And he kind of told me to walk him through, like, okay, well, tell me, you can't really remember 0 through 4, so tell me about, I was like, no, I remember. I don't know if it's the same thing, but some people say you have an eidetic memory. You see things in pictures or something like that. So I can hear a song, I can hear a podcast, and I'll remember in my mind. I can see a picture of where I was at when I watched it, and so that's how my childhood is. I can remember things like in those orders. Like I remember, I was telling Lashonda, I was like, I can remember seeing, like I remember the distinct smell of me being in pre-K 3 or not pre-K 3, just being in pre-K period, like my first year in school. Like it's a very distinct smell that if I smell it again, I'm like, this takes me back to literally sitting on the floor as a kid and a child in my classroom or whatever. But anyway, so I'm telling my therapist about 0 through 4 and 5 through 10, right? And he stops at one point and he says, if you are watching a movie of yourself, or not of yourself. He actually was working to disassociate me from the life that I lived in a sense. He said if you were to watch a movie of a kid that lived a life like that from 0 or 1 to 10, what would be your thoughts about that kid? And I said, well, number one, I probably would cry for that kid because that was tough. And then I said, I don't believe that I would have had a healthy outlook on what the rest of that kid's life would have looked like. I believe he could have been a drug dealer. He could have been, in prison. He could have been dead. He could have been wreaking havoc on the world, to be honest. But I wouldn't think that he would be some type of upstanding citizen, whatever. And he said, yeah, it's like a movie, watching a movie of everything that somebody has been through. There's no way that you should still be here or that you should be the representation of the person that you are. And I think he had asked me another question like, what would you think would be the surrounding circumstances around how that would be possible? And I said, man, if I'm being honest, I think it's just by the grace of God. Like, or he might have even asked me that question. I think he started talking about other things, and then I pretty much said, and I just think it's by the grace of God I'm still here, and I'm not what it could have been, because I basically, one of the parts I talked about was being, and for all the people here, please get in the chat and say what's up. You know, you come to people's house, you got to speak, man. This is the network. You know what I'm saying? This is my house now, y'all. Now this is literally and figuratively my house. So y'all come here and say what's up and hit the like for sure. But anyway, yeah, man, I said it wouldn't. It's the grace of God, right? And so it made me think, and he made me think about how often, how all the things that I have been through, all the things that I've experienced in life, it's hey, what they be saying, life for me ain't been no crystal style, you know. But in a lot of ways, seriously, it's been a struggle. It's been a lot of wrestling, a lot of striving, right? And it made me think, and I was inspired, and I thought to myself, like, you weren't supposed to be here. Like, if the enemy had his own say so, I wasn't supposed to be here. Bruce Glass in the building, my guy, my guy, Bruce Glass, always show up, always show out. You feel me? Love it, man. Glad to see you in here, man. But actually, to say ain't nobody in here, but you know, if you are in here, man, I appreciate you as always for stopping through and hollering at your boy. And then we got Miss Reese. Those are two of my faithful few right there. What's up to Miss Reese as well? You know what I'm saying? Y'all come through and show love. Also, man, not to brag or nothing, but we are partially monetized. You know what I'm saying? Super chat, super stickers, all those things. So y'all show some love there as well. But anyway, yeah, man. So I started thinking about that, right? And so he basically, this assignment wasn't just like give me the testimony of your life. This was like tell me all the bad things that happened 0 to 4, all the bad, like the most bad things that happened from 5 to 10 and up into your adulthood, right? And so, I talked about a lot of things, right? And so some of the things weren't necessarily like I wasn't supposed to be here, but some of them very much were like you weren't supposed to experience that, right? And so the biggest issue with a lot of situations is reconciling what you could control versus what was you were just born into this, right? I'm a part of this thing called Daniel's Den, and we're supposed to be reading this book. I think I downloaded it and haven't started it yet, but we're gonna get there. But basically the topic was relational ruin, right? And I think the thing that when I was in there for a lunch and learn and we were talking, I put my hand up to speak and I said one of the things that I had to acknowledge about my life is that I was raised in relational ruin, meaning that a lot of things that I experienced and went through in life, a lot of the ups, the extreme downs, the parent issues, the relational issues, they were things that I was taught. Some they were things that I caught from growing up under in the household that I was raised in. I at a young age, as I grew to learn about like certain diagnoses and things of that nature, or maybe even being like a young adult, one of the first things that I realized is that my granny, my grandmother, the one who raised me, the woman who raised me, was very much manic depressant. Like her moods would shift and change very easily. She it wasn't very expressive if it wasn't like anger or the happiness that she may express or experience were attached to these exterior things. And so I talked about this. I think I talked about this before. Well, actually, I talked about this on a Mind of a Man episode. But at my first session, I sat down and I talked and he talked and we went back and forth, right? Just having conversation for the first time. And he said, "Yeah, I don't know if nobody's ever told you, but you have depressive disorder." And he was like, pretty much like it's quite obvious. And he said there are two different ways that you express this. One of like there are two different ways that it can manifest itself. One is through environmental situations, meaning relationship goes crazy, job situations, money get funny, whatever. Just like there, you get in a car accident, somebody in your family dies, whatever. Those things are environmental. There are things that are on the outside that happen to you. And then he said, then there's biological. There's, your grandmother, your mom, your auntie. It's in your bloodline. Like they all dealt with those type of things. And he said that's what you have. He said you have biological depression, but he said environmental things squeeze you and pull those things out of you. And so I smiled. And if you watch, whenever you do watch the other episode on the Mind of a Man episode, this is it's a portion of it, but regardless, I smiled because it was for the first, not for the first time, but um for the first time in a long while, I was able to give language to certain things, right? And there's this thing out about men where they say we don't know how to talk, we don't know how to express ourselves, right? And that's not my struggle. That's never been my issue is knowing how to express myself, so to speak, right? I've muffled certain emotions at times because I didn't feel comfortable or safe, and I say safe in quotations not because I don't believe that that is not a real struggle for people. I just think that it becomes a cop out for people who just don't want to do things. You don't want to do hard things. You don't want to talk about what you think or you feel in your relationship or even with God, right? And so I've always been able to articulate myself or was more willing or free flowing to do that. But I think at times I would bottle it up because it was more safe, so to speak. So I'm smiling because I'm like, okay, cool. um, what I'm doing right now, being on a microphone, being in front of a camera, just creating in general in a way where the masses can consume the work, right, has been something that I've always enjoyed doing since I was young. I'm telling you, I remember being 5 or 6, and we had family that lived in California, and they were down here. And I remember she had one of those old school recorders, you could slide your hand in that little pocket, kinfolk. They had the little strap, you know what I'm saying? She had one of them Jones. And I remember her like saying, all right, y'all do something on camera. And I was acting like I wanted to act, but I couldn't. I was still a little shy, but I really love the arts always, love acting, just love performing, which something that definitely could get into, right? But something that I love to do since I was a very young kid. And so I always knew it was something that I wanted to do, but struggled to actually execute, right? And so, and mainly because of the things that were around me, right? Then, as much as I could talk about the environmental pressures of life squeezing in a way to make you express or make you feel certain things, I think the outside perspective of me was like, hey, you're the oldest, you have a certain level of responsibility, you are to work, you are to be responsible for your siblings, you are to learn how to cook and clean and do all of these things because you are in some ways the leader or will be the leader. I remember my grandmother, like me going to doctor's appointments with her. I'm telling you, I used to do it all the time because I was the oldest. And I remember her being older. My granny was like 50 something when she took us in, right? And we were still babies essentially when she took us in. But like, I remember her being an older lady and going and telling me like, "Hey, you go ahead and go across the street because you quicker, you younger, you'll get there, and I'm gonna make my way." And I'm like, "Nah, Granny, I'm waiting for you, right?" And she was like, "Well, you," she was like, "Go ahead, you got to learn how to do stuff on your own because I'm not always gonna be here, right?" And so it was like it was true, but it was also kind of morbid. And so I think I always had a certain level of understanding that was kind of forced on me, not because I always wanted to be so smart or so perceptive or intuitive or just willing to take charge, so to speak. That was just kind of how my granny raised me, and then it was a part of who I was. I gotta believe, right? So, with that being said, um, So, man, I kind of wanted to chronicle some of the things and why I said I wasn't supposed to be here. Now, mind you, some stuff is just like crazy stuff that happened, not necessarily like all like, oh, I've had 10 times, I almost lost my life. Like, thank God that ain't my story. Um, but no, my one of my earliest memories is I remember being like super young, like probably I definitely couldn't swim because I didn't learn how to swim until I was in the seventh grade, and that was peer pressure because my friends were all doing cannonballs, and I tried to do a cannonball, and I said I'm gonna get right up against this uh this pool wall, so when I come up, I ain't got to worry about swimming. I could just grab the ledge and I'm cool. That didn't happen. I jump in, Kinfolk, and I worked up the nerve to do it. And LaShonda, I see your comment. I'm gonna pull it up here in just a second. But I run cannonball. I don't know how good the cannonball was, but I did one. I come up, reach for that wall. Oh, ain't no wall, Kinfolk. So I oh and my friends all start laughing at me because they know I can't swim. And so it became this joke. And I said, well, I'm not leaving the pool today because I'm going to learn how to swim, essentially. And so I pretty much left that day learning at least the doggy pedal. And if you got a strong doggy on you, that's all you really need. But anyway, let me read this comment, then I go back to what I was saying. Cheers to having the courage to challenge yourself. That's the real strength. Thank you. So, okay. So I remember going to the pool with one of my aunties. And I ain't gonna lie, y'all. If aunties, if y'all ever see this, love you to life. But well, I didn't like y'all very much when we were young because I just thought y'all were the meanest, rudest people in the whole entire world. So I go to the pool with a few of my aunties, I think, and I'm out there trying to act like I could swim, and they might have got on to us, rightfully so, about what we could or couldn't do, but it wasn't no big deal to me. So I'm like, they say it's time to get out the pool, right? And so everybody getting out the pool, and I'm trying to act like I'm swimming. Nothing's happening, but I didn't tiptoed far enough to get right to where I can no longer like dang near see. And so I'm going under the water, but nobody's paying attention to the kid that is still in the pool, essentially drowning. So this sounds funny, but this is what really happened. I reached out to grab my auntie, and all I could do is pinch her booty. And so I pinched her. I just had just enough fingernail to reach out and pinch her booty. And she turned around and literally grabbed me out the pool. And so I'm like, could somebody have saved me, before I ultimately died or something? Yes, but there are stories that were far more safe that didn't end well. You know what I'm saying? But that's what happened. Okay, so the next situation that I remember is I was I was going to use the bathroom. And I've told a story years and years and years and years ago on my old YouTube page or whatever. But y'all don't know nothing about it. So anyway, I'm using the bathroom or whatever. And I'm like 5. You know what I'm saying? Like I was young, I was fairly young. 5 or 6 max. I don't think I was no older than that. And I remember I was sitting on the pot or whatever. So the cabinets are here, and my granny used to have, and I know any of the old school people, y'all know what I'm talking about. But my granny had these gigantic beach towels. That's hilarious. The booty pinch. Hey, that really happened too. No, yeah. Like I barely reached out. What he said? Did you at least pinch the? You know what I'm saying? I forgot what movie that was. But anyway, but yeah. So there was my granny had these gigantic beach towels. So I'm in there using the bathroom, just chilling, chilling, chilling. Next thing you know, it's a loud noise. and the cabinet doors go flying open, right? And I'm like, whoa, like now mind you, I could be putting a little I could be putting a little extra cheese on it. I feel like I felt something hot, right? Now I could this was now mind you, I've lived 40 times over since then, but I could feel like I can remember that moment. I do remember that moment. Like I felt something hot. But people like frantic all of a sudden. I hear people screaming behind me, and then my family, and this we had a humongous family, like literally a humongous family, tons of cousins, tons of aunties, very matriarchal family that I come from. And so they come running trying to figure out what's going on. So they come in the bathroom. They fully still don't know what's going on, and then we get a knock on the door. The dude next door had a shotgun, and if I'm not mistaken, he was there to see his girlfriend who had a son. Maybe it was his son, maybe it wasn't. But this kid was younger than me. This kid was like 3. He got a hold of the shotgun and literally fired the shotgun off. And I'm here. The cabinet doors are like here that come flying open, and it's like I said, literally, my granny had like 20 beach towels. I don't know where she got these beach towels from, y'all, but she had them. And so they come in, pick me up. I'm like, I felt kind of special, low key. I ain't gonna hold you, kinfolk. I was the center of attention for the moment. You know what I'm saying? But I was confused, even though I knew what happened after the fact. I was confused, and so the police got involved. The dude, I think the girl kicked the dude out in that moment. Like, I think my uncle got mad or something. Like he wanted to fight. I don't fully recall, but it was like a big deal, right? And so, once again, thinking back, I'm like, bruh, that is a few times where it could have went bad. You know what I'm saying? Like where even if it was like one of the situations happened, like sometimes like people like drown slightly or lose oxygen to their brain or something, and then they're never the same. Of course, somebody gets shot, their body gets altered most of the time. If bones break, things like that happen. And it just made me realize, like, like I literally, as I'm laying all these things out, I'm thinking like, bruh. And he's saying like a lot of these things were out of your control, because I think there's other things that have happened that weren't necessarily life threatening, but they were life altering, right? So that could be my cousin molesting me or something like that. I struggle with that. You know what? I actually blocked that out of my mind for a very long time because she just smelled so bad. And I ain't trying to be funny. It was just such bad memories attached to that situation. And I was so very young that in my mind, it was like, it didn't happen. And so things like that, sometimes, as we know, when young boys, young girls get molested or something like that, it it opens up this adult thing in them, this appetite, this desire that sometimes they can't control or maneuver. Sometimes people are molested by the opposite sex and they become more attracted to the same sex, or vice versa. You know what I'm saying? One of my buddies, it's not my testimony. It's not my testimony to tell, but he talks about, experiencing that molestation and then wanting to prove something by sleeping with as many women as he possibly could. And so there was so much at the age of 10. And that's not including like multiple car accidents and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just a bunch of things that happened. Me and my cousin, he was like my brother growing up, like my favorite dude in the world, yo. And so he was a few years older than me. But his stepdad, um, he did a little street pharmaceuticals, you know what I'm saying? And so he was going to do his thing. He was going to make him a transaction. You know what I'm saying? And this was late. Now, mind you, this was night. This was the like early mid '90s, because Tupac. We was banging Tupac. This had to been like all eyes on me time frame. You know what I'm saying? And so 95, 96 time frame. And so he was like, hey, y'all want to roll with me to go make a stop? You know what I'm saying? To go run an errand real quick. I'm like, we like, cool, bet. You know what I'm saying? Now, mind you, it was pretty late at night. It had to be 9, 10 o'clock at night, folks. But during this time frame, my grandmother was in the hospital because she had like heart disease. So she was in the hospital for like 6 months, maybe like longer, maybe like 8 months. So we stayed with the auntie, and then we also stayed with my grandma for a very, very, very short time. Like my great grandma, we stayed with her for a very short time. Granny just didn't have the patience for us. She was far too along in the game to be dealing with us. Kids hungry. We in the kitchen 24/7. She had too many off the wall cuss words to be dealing with us at that time frame. So that was short lived, and then we went back to my auntie, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, my uncle goes to the house to make the transaction, and apparently he's going to make the transaction with the son of the guy who owns the house or whatever. But he knows both of them. Now, if he knew us or who we were or whatever, I don't know. It don't matter. He should have because he recognized the car, whatever. So we outside, music bumping, listening to Tupac. Man, dude walk up to the car, knock on the window. My cousin rolled the window down. I'm sitting in the back, right? I'm sitting in the back. My cousin's sitting in the front seat. He say, hey, can you cut the music down? And I'm like, hey, nah. And my kinfolk like look at me. He cut the music up louder. We laugh, roll the window back up. I didn't remember seeing this guy walk away, but when he comes back, he knocks on the window, but it ain't with his knuckle. It's with a pistol, and the pistol got a laser on it. I don't know what kind of gun it was. I'm not really good at knowing. Oh, that's a 45. That's a 22. I don't know, especially not at that age. But he knocked on that window with that pistol, and we knew exactly what he was talking about then. We could hear very well. Now, mind you, I was like 10, maybe 11 at this time frame, maybe. And I froze. And my kinfolk, he reaches up and he cuts the radio off. Do you hear me? It wasn't no, we gonna turn it down a little bit. We apologize, sir. We froze. And apparently that dude wasn't having it with us. He wasn't playing. You know what I'm saying? So my uncle comes back and he like, man, y'all quiet. What's going on? And we ain't saying nothing. We just quiet. Cause I think we were in real shock. I'm like, bruh, the dude could have killed us for real. And so I think by the time we got to the house, we may have felt comfortable enough to tell him. And he got upset. He said he was going to go take care of it or have a conversation or whatever it was. And I think he came back and said the guy said he apologized. He thought it was somebody else, whatever, whatever. And it was what it was. But that was another situation that I'm pretty sure was before 10. Um, there was another instance where, now let's be clear, I grew up in the hood my whole life. I'm not foreign to none of the things. Like, if anything, I've become more perceptive of how to keep your head on the swivel, how to guard yourself, right, in certain situations, because anything could happen at any time. That's just life for sure, especially in the times we live in, but definitely in impoverished neighborhoods. So, man, I remember my mama. Shout out to my mama. I love you to life. I love you, girl. I love you, love. I love you long. You love you strong. You hear me? But my mama's gone, man. She's gone off them drugs, man. And she stole speakers from this dude. I don't know the dude. I don't. I wish I remember this dude's name, but I don't at the same time. And my mama had to been high to her mind because she took you know how though they have the, like, basically it's like a clothes hamper, and it's like those plastic ones. It was kind of like, it'd probably be waist high, and it probably come with like a lid or something, right? She took the speakers and then she put them in the clothes hamper, and then she put them on my granny patio. So for whatever the reason, the dude believed, I don't know how he put two and two together that it was my mama. But for whatever the reason, I think he ended up looking on the patio and seeing that the speakers were actually in the container, in the clothes hamper. And when I tell you, they bust out every window that my granny had. Now, mind you, it was late. So the kids, and it was it was a bunch of kids. We're all laying down or sleep. We get awakened to busted windows because they know that my mom is the one who stole stole the speakers from the guy. And so my uncle, he's irate. He ready to put his hands on somebody. We terrified. It's broken glass. What that song? Broken glass everywhere. That old school cool in the Gang song. It's literally broken glass everywhere. And it was just very traumatic. Like very traumatic, bruh. Like to be that young and to hear these negative things that your mama has done. And then I believe I was at least aware of the fact that she was on some type of drugs. We got a comment. Let's see. It says, she said, I know your granny was pissed TL off. For sure. But even more than that, though, it's like there's so many other things that happen that aren't necessarily, like I said, they weren't life threatening, but they were life altering that I can't even talk about. That was like maybe it wasn't nothing that happened to me, but it was something that happened to somebody else in my family that I was right next to or I saw. You know what I'm saying? Like it was so much trauma. And that's something that is very overused in today's society too. Everything is traumatic, right? It's just like every dude is supposed to be a narcissist and every dude is a gaslighter because they may say something that you don't want to hear or whatever. And don't get me wrong, it goes both ways. I'm not saying that it's a man versus woman thing because it's not. I'm just saying a lot of the times I may have never called somebody a gaslighter or a narcissist, but I've heard it before, and it doesn't always equate to the reality of the situation or what actually happened or your perception just took over and it didn't really speak to like logic or common sense. And so I think that happens a lot in our society or whatever. So anyway, um man, I go back, right? And let me check and see where we're at on time. We had 33 minutes. I knew because of time frame, I knew because of subject matter, and I knew because of the day that it is, Saturday night, that it wasn't gonna be a heavily flooded video with a bunch of people in the comments, right? Bruce Glass and Lashonda are two of my greatest supporters, and they tapped in. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Bruce is in Washington, so he's actually an hour ahead. So I wouldn't even expect for him to even be up right now. So if he's not watching it, I understand, my brother. I hope you go back and check it out. But but yeah, man. Let me stop now to say, man, I want people to take heart right now because there was a lot of things that were supposed to go wrong in your life. There were a lot of things that were supposed to take you out. This ain't motivation. This ain't some speech here. This is real life. The enemy knew who you were. He knew who you were going to be. God knows the beginning from the end from the beginning. They got their ways of knowing who you are as well. You're near Richmond, Virginia. Okay. Okay. Well, listen, man. I say, dog. I was just I've been telling people about you lately, man. You my guy. I gotta come see you. I promise I do. Cause the way you show love, even on this platform, like there ain't been a show that I ain't did or whatever that I don't see Bruce somewhere in the comments. You know what I'm saying? You just one of them guys, man. I told LaShonda, I said, man, Bruce be want to be first in the comments, dog. And you beat us to the first comment again. So, but yeah, man, I appreciate it. But man, listen, in reality, your life been hell, right? Your life been hard. It's been testy. It was a lot of things that you couldn't figure out why they were happening. And it started young, and it hadn't let up. It happened for a reason. Now, the beautiful thing about the life we live is that we have a level of autonomy, right? If it is to be, it is up to me, right? It's like me realizing that I grew up in certain environments and situations that were outside of my control. But if I don't perceive it as something that I actually can by taking the necessary steps, whether that's going to therapy, whether that's forgiving people, whether that's choosing not to make certain choices with my life, right? That I could easily do. Like I made reference to the breaking and entering, right? Like I literally, some people say this is stupid. I didn't get charged. I never was indicted on anything, right? Um, but I was a part of this, right? And I'm not ashamed to say this. It's life. It is what it is. But I was 14 years old. You know what I'm saying? But I thought about that. I said, man, I imagine how much different my life would be if I would have actually got caught up in that. And that was solely based off of some loyal to family type stuff. Somebody disrespected my cousin, so in my mind, you disrespected me. At 14, why am I thinking like that? Why do I feel like I have to be a part of something? Like it just didn't make sense. You're a freshman in high school. Why are you why do you feel like you have to show somebody something? But I had no identity. I didn't know who I was and I didn't know whose I was, and I was saved 2 years prior. But when you have no models, when there's no understanding for what your purpose is, because whatever, there's not even those type of conversations going on. When you just feel like you're trying to find you somewhere to belong, these are the type of things that happen. The investigator came to my house. I wasn't there. My family member answered the door. And if it wasn't for that conversation that he had, who knows where my life would, like, I'm already in the system at 14. What could have happened? What do I go to juvenile? Am I like what happened? But that's the type of things that we do. Those are the type of situations that we put ourselves in when when the enemy knows who we are, but we don't know. I, Shout out to Darius Daniels. One of the greatest things that he said, that one what he said, too many great things to quote, and if I keep talking, I'm gonna forget. But he said in Daniel's Den, one of the classes, he said, the enemy and his devils, demons, whoever, they already know who you are. The only person that can actually fight against the person that they know you are is the person that you're supposed to be. So until you actually realize that there's a calling on your life, there's a gifting in your life that's supposed to bless the world, that you are beyond your present circumstance and situation, you're never you won't be able to fight off, because they're fighting the best version of you. That's why you're getting what you're getting. If I'm a bodybuilder and I take 2 years off, my PRs don't matter no more. I am the only person that's going to be able to hit those PRs is the person that had a certain workout routine, eating regimen, workout regimen, all of those things. And so I have to become the person, you have to become the person that is actually equipped to survive in a certain way. Okay. So let me see what LaShonda said. Not to get all biblical. Well, this is church flow. So we absolutely should get biblical. Not to get all biblical, but the Bible literally tells us the enemy is roaring around looking to devour us. He is on assignment to seek and destroy. Army term. I know you can relate. Absolutely. 2 times retired. Working on 3, but I think I'm a quit. Um, so he's like, and so correction to this, respectfully, he is like, the enemy is like a roaring lion. See, when people say the enemy, he's a roaring lion. No, he's not. He's like. He's never, he's nothing to fear, and he's not a real representation of anything that the Lord made that is powerful. He is like a roaring lion seeking whom he shall devour. He's not a lion. He's not a roaring lion. He's like one. He's the greatest, weakest imitation that you'll ever see. And so, but absolutely receive the word right. The enemy, the Bible literally tells us he's like a roaring lion. Then LaShonda said, you have to stay alert and be diligent in getting to know who you're called to be. I know you meant to say no. See, I be peeping. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, yes, you have to stay alert and be diligent. Let me look up the definition of that because I think that might actually be something super dope in that actual word. So give me 2.5 seconds. Y'all ain't got nothing going. It's a Saturday night. Y'all chilling. So y'all just chill with me, man. Thank you for anybody who's tuning in. Make sure you hit the like, please. Stop what you're doing right now. If you ain't got nothing going, if you ain't already hit the like, please hit the like, y'all. All it does is increase the exposure and helps other people get it. It may not be for you, but it may be for somebody else. But I know it's for you because you on here. God does all things well. So please hit the like. Don't walk away. See, and if you just got off of her, you're a demon spawn. All right, diligent. Adjective: having or showing care and conscientiousness in one's work or duties. See, that's powerful. That actually is very powerful. Having or showing care and conscientiousness in one's work or duties. And so I do believe 1,000% that a lot of people we don't it's we have not because we ask not, right? It's knocking, the door shall be open, asking, there shall be given, seeking, you shall find, right? But then there's also this aspect of putting your hands to the plow and being very intentional about what you do that I don't think we display as believers. Diligent to familiarize yourself with who the enemy actually is. Until you know who your opponent is, you don't know how to defeat them. That only worked for Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather said he didn't watch tape on the guys that he fought. He liked to get in the ring and actually collect info. Very dangerous, but not the plan of action for believers. We have to know who we are, and we have to know whose we are. That's the number one thing. But then we familiarize ourselves with our opponent. He's the father of lies. Beelzebub. He's all of these things that there's no truth in it. And so if we were being honest with ourselves as believers, a lot of the things that we have believed to be true about ourselves, a lot of the things that we have fed into were based off of lies. It's going back to Gideon. It's I'm the weakest in my clan. My clan is the smallest. It's like, who told you that? Was it somebody that actually loved you? Was it somebody that believed in you? Was it the person that gave you your identity? And I ain't talking about your daddy. I'm talking about your father in heaven. The Lord is with you, mighty warrior. The negative things, right? I had an auntie. I don't know if it was one auntie or two, but either way, I have an uncle whom I love. If you're seeing this, I only got one uncle. It's not hard to know who the uncle is. If you did see this, I love you. This ain't no disrespect to you at all because I ain't said this, but I think that there was a level of disappointment to how his life turned out early. He was very gifted in a lot of things. Funny, smart, athletic, artistic, could draw, could rap, could act. He's just a gifted guy. And I think that people were disappointed that he didn't follow through with whatever they felt his life was supposed to be, right? And that auntie told me you're gonna be like him. And I was like 10, no lie. A lot of things happen in a very small window for me. And it, of course, the information that we get is a feedback loop for us. So if you have somebody saying those type of things to you, it's absolutely going to project something that you just kind of have to deal with it, right? Like as I got older, I heard that for every negative thing that you hear, you have to. I think they said you have to. Hold on, let me say it right. I feel like I'm all over the place. For every negative thing you hear, you have to hear like 15 or 16 positive things to combat it. So it's those type of realities, right, that you got to deal with in life. And so for me, a lot of that stuff, I knew it wasn't true. Like when I was like 5 or something like that, my grandma told me I was a mistake. I never forgot that. Now I said that I knew that that wasn't right and that that wasn't true, but at the same time, that was hard to hear from somebody, right? That's a hard thing to interpret and to take in.
Oops.
Sorry, y'all. Um, well, my camera died, so we down to we went from steak and shrimp and lobster to ramen noodles, y'all. But we gonna get something to fix that battery issue here really soon. Um, Let me go through some comments before we continue on. Apologize for the poor quality. It just is what it is. She said, LaShonda said, prior to becoming strong in my faith, it was easy to believe the lies in many situations, family relations, friendships, relationships. I wonder why is that? uh, Now, I don't claim to have all the answers. And then you said work as well. Well, I mean, once again, I don't believe I have all the answers, but I do believe that it is very easy. Like, you are what you perpetually do in some situations, right? They say don't believe none of what you see, half of what you hear. Faith cometh by hearing. If you have people telling you your whole life you ain't nothing, you ain't got nothing, you ain't doing nothing, you worthless, you ugly, you start to that starts to become your baseline. And so I firmly believe that more than anything, that stuff starts to affect the way that you live life because you also take in information from what you don't hear or what you don't see. So if my daddy wasn't around and my mom wasn't around, then I'm also saying to myself that I'm not loved, that I'm not special, that I'm not important, that I'm not worth it, that I don't have inherent value. A lot of the decisions that I made being 8 and wanting to have a family, not at 8, but I knew I wanted to have a family when I got older, was because of what I didn't have. So I'm going to show you I can be a better dad than what you were. Right? Things like that. Like living up to or feeling like you need to live up to certain things or agendas or dynamics that you placed in your life based off of hurts and aches and pains and shortcomings doesn't make you good enough at the end of the day. Because you can be the best parent ever and still be down on yourself, still feel like there's something left to be wanted. So I believe absolutely you experience those negative feedback loops. And if you don't just think about what I just said as well. You need 15 or 16 positive things to combat that one negative. Imagine how many times you've been in an argument and somebody said something that maybe wasn't even true, but it was just something that they wanted to say to cut you if it warranted a response. And now you continue, like they're gonna continue to do it because they know what gets a rise out of you. So yeah, it's not hard. To answer your question, Lashonda, I think it's just I think also very much like me, we all are walking testimonies, and we all are people that God has destined to do great things in the earth. It's just up to us. We don't realize that we have a part to play. So the enemy was coming for your faith as well. He was coming for your belief in yourself. He was coming for your belief in him. How many times have we went through hard things in certain seasons, and then it's like we looking up like, okay, God, was you up there? Is you is or is you ain't up there? Things like that. Things like that, bub. Shout out to Damon Darling, man. I absolutely want to go see him in I think he's gonna be at the Arlington Improv in like October. Absolutely want to go see Damon Darling. Things like that, Bob. Anyway. But yeah, man, just me, even the aspect of like, I started having sex when I was 14, and I started drinking heavily probably before then. And Randy laughs about that. And I mean, thank God that that's not his story. But I think it's something very sad about the reality of a, a, a auntie telling you you're gonna drink, you're gonna be a drunk just like your parents, probably before you're 13, and then that becomes the thought in my head that triggers I'm gonna drink because maybe that'll make me be closer to them a little bit. Maybe there's some type of connection that we build from me doing this. Mind you, not like any alcoholic in America has always said, I literally could stop drinking. It wasn't a thing. Like I didn't have a real addiction. I was just doing a thing because it was almost in a way prophesied, right? Like this ain't the like super spiritualized, like, oh my, or I declare. No, it was like you spoke something to me that I believed and I acted upon. It void of that thought, I'm not so sure that I would have actually drank alcohol that young intentionally. But in the back of my mind, if my parents do it or they were large consumers of it, I witnessed it and then it was spoken into my life, then I'm gonna perpetuate that, right? And so yeah, it's just we have to be aware of that. That's why I don't tell my kids they bad. Y'all bad kids. And it's no, we don't talk like that because that stuff becomes things that are internalized. I've never cussed at my kids. Get your ass. I don't do stuff like that. I grew up, my grandmother used to verbally abuse us. That's just what it is. Love her to life. But it was verbally abusive and it hurt and it made me feel bad about myself. She didn't just say hell and damn, y'all. She said M and F's and F this, you know, sit your mother. Like, that's how my grandmother talked. And it's just reality. This ain't got to, you know, I remember one of my aunties, God rest her soul, she's not here anymore. I loved her to life too. She was the auntie that she thought I was the cutest thing when I was young. And I remember I went to spend the night at her house one time. She bought me some pajamas and all type of stuff, right? But anyway, I remember I was talking about the relationship with my mom at that time. And I remember her telling me, she pulled me to the side and was like, everybody ain't got to know your business and keep it to yourself. And, people can't control how they used to be. And I'm like, what you're missing, I didn't say this to her. I just listened to her and let her talk. But, I've always been respectful of my elders. But what I don't think she understood is that a lot of that stuff, most of it, there was never any harsh angst or like there was this issue that I was taking with my mom. It was just revisionist history, me talking about what I came from, how I've been able to overcome it. And I think that they came from this old school way of in the black world specifically, and I can't speak to the white or the Hispanic or the Asian or the Mexican. I can't speak to those. But in the black world, was very much a sweep everything under the rug. We almost forgive people to a fault. There's almost no accountability unless it's this adverse thing. Like it's like somebody doing wrong to you, and you can't just say, you know what, you wronged me. I didn't like it. Yeah, ain't no coming back from it. I'm gonna choose to go this way. You go this way. We wash our hands and it's over. You know, it's almost like it couldn't go like that. Somebody had to get cussed out. Somebody had to get physically assaulted. And my granny's favorite saying used to be, "You didn't tell your draws. You didn't tell your draws with me." You know what I'm saying? So stuff like that, where it's like most relationships. It's even like when we talk about something like divorce, right? And I definitely believe that divorce was an adverse thing that I experienced. Not saying that I wasn't wrong or that there wasn't accountability that I could have taken or that I haven't taken. No, I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying that that is they say that divorce is worse than physical death because at least in physical death there's a level of closure. You see this person, you know, get put in the ground. Somebody gets cremated. Their remains get spread somewhere. There's finality to it. In divorcing somebody, that's not the case. It's a spiritual death because now you have to relive all those moments over and over again, especially if you haven't done the work, if you haven't went to therapy, if you haven't talked to somebody that you love, if you haven't made amends with whatever the situation was that made the relationship go awry, if you haven't accepted accountability for your wrongdoings, if you haven't asked for forgiveness, if you haven't chose to forgive. Most people don't realize that forgiveness is for you. You choosing to forgive somebody ain't got nothing to do with nobody else. It's just you. God literally can't give you other things if you can't take your hands off of whatever He has for you. Not whatever He has. You can't receive what He has for you if you can't take your hands off of the things that don't belong to you. Who told you you could hold a grudge? Who told you you could be upset with somebody? Who told you you could not forgive somebody? Question for the chat: how many people don't have realized how spiritual and almost demonic that not forgiving somebody is? That's a real question for the chat. Did you ever realize that? They said the Bible says that rebellion is a sin as unto um the word was there. Starts with a D. Not damnation. Not necromancy. What is that word? Starts with a D if I'm not mistaken. Divination. Yes, rebellion is a sin as unto divination. And so yeah, a lot of the things that we do or don't do in our lives are a direct reflection of those unforgiven things, um, things that we think are okay. Like, man, it's even to the point of like I was thinking about this. Like I was at the store and bruh, I don't know if this is a black thing or a white thing or whatever thing, but when people, I would typically get out of somebody's way. If me and somebody close, I don't want to bump shoulders with you. I don't want to touch you unnecessarily. I'm gonna get out of the way. I'm gonna slide over. I'm gonna say excuse me. I just think that's respect, right? For whatever. The fact that people say respect is given, it's not, it's earned, it ain't given and all that. I'm gonna give you respect. Sorry. And that's where I think we toe a line sometimes with the Black Power movement, the just that whole thing about the superiority. That's the thing I love about being a believer. It's like, no, Christ is all. He is above all. He is superior. And we all just people who got dominion over our homes and our metrons and our sphere of our sphere of influence. And then we have to learn how to work together and love each other in a certain way. Period. So the idea that I'm supposed to like not get out of the way of a white person because white people think the world belongs to them, so you got to show them something. I'm not with that stuff, and I don't think white people are the devil either. I don't think they're inherently evil. I think they're no more inherently evil than black people are inherently evil. Let's not forget that the slave trade didn't start because they just all came over there with guns shooting up stuff. People willingly gave African people away, but we don't never want to talk about that. Now they may have been the weakest, they may have been the ones who were a little distinct and different in how they moved. I don't know, but all I know is they didn't go over there and said we're gonna take all of you and just leave all of you. No, that's not how that worked. That's not how that went. So I'm not gonna treat white people, and that's why with you Hebrew Israelites, that's why it's a doctrine of demons because you use scripture in a way that is completely wrong and improper. Stop trying to use Deuteronomy 28 as the end all be all. We came over on ships and this and that, and this is what happens. We're cursed for 4,000 years and all that. Man, shut up. If that's the case, we all still cursed then. Because ain't nothing got better. So what are we talking about here? We got to be careful with that stuff. Because a lot of people are actually, I believe that those type of religions or cults or whatever they feed on the weak-minded. They feed on people who ain't never really done like they don't believe in nothing no way. So it's easy for them to gravitate to something that says you're God, you're a king, you're God. Shut up, y'all foolish. They don't never say nothing to me though. I be ready. Oh, I be so ready. I want all the smoke, kinfolk. I see you with your tassels on your shirt. I see you with your purple on. You royalty. You cute or whatever. You got the cute little outfit on. I don't care about none of that, kinfolk. I know that word, and I promise you I'll bush over your head with it. So anyway, I digress. Um, but yeah, I think for a long time, even when going back to the original thought, for a long time, even when I wasn't like putting myself in harm's way due to physical, things that I was choosing to do. I've never done drugs or anything like that in my life outside of drinking. I ain't never popped no pills. I ain't never snorted no powder. I ain't never tooted no powder. Shout out to Randy. I ain't never tooted no powder. I ain't never shot up nothing. I just listen to me. Listen to me. Terrifies me. I ain't never smoked no weed. I believe that I was gonna smoke I was gonna have a DMX type situation. I was gonna smoke the weed that was laced with PCP, and now I'm barking and crap for no good reason. Now I'm running towards it instead of at a point I should have been running from it. I just believed I was always gonna be the one that was gonna try the drugs at one time and then I was gonna die. That was just me. So yeah, man. My drug of choice in my life, admittedly so, I would say would be the pursuit of love. I think it would be easy for me to say that women were my biggest vice, right? I think that's easy for men to say. And I ain't even talking about like sleeping around. I'm saying the idea of love has probably been my biggest vice in my life, that I was chasing after love and acceptance. And it put me in situations where I didn't have the proper filter to know when somebody, maybe not a bad person, just not good for me. And man, Darius Daniels has this just keen way of saying small things like that that'll shift the way that you view everything, right? And the idea that, yeah, listen, you're not a bad person. You're just not good for me. It's like listen, collard greens with fat back in them, they ain't bad. But they ain't good for me. And mind you, I still like a collard with a good fat back in it. So that ain't what I'm saying. maybe more of a chitterling or a pork belly or something. Maybe that's something that I could probably say. But overall, you know, gout me later, but I still take me a nice collard with a fat back in it, kid folk. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, y'all, I like to be silly sometimes, but no, man. But seriously, I just, man, I had a realization that there have been so many times that the enemy was trying to take me out, and a lot of the times, let's also be clear, y'all. This ain't even always about a physical thing. Sometimes he'll take the joy from your life. He'll attempt to take the joy from your life. He'll attempt to take your belief that it can get better away. Sometimes he'll take away the things that you think that you needed, but God was ultimately sitting high and looking low, working those things in your favor for your good that you never would have imagined. We think that because we say God is good, that he doesn't allow bad things to happen, right? It's like, well, you didn't have no mother growing up, you didn't have no father growing up, and then your granny passed when you was a freshman in high school, a freshman in college, and then all of the relationships that you have, almost all of the relationships from probably 32 down, were all bad relationships. No real healthy friendships that you can think of. No good relationships with males in my life. Now that a lot of that, some of that stuff isn't true anymore, but for a long time, every mentor, every male father figure type role that could have been in my life, it ended negatively because there was like some thing between us where maybe they thought I was trying to get over on them in the business. And I'm like, dude, you have 20 years experience. I've been doing this for a year. What am I trying to take from you? I'm actually trying to learn from you. Now I got some motion because I've been putting the work in, but so it was always like seeming like there was a level of competition that was felt by mentors or some like father figure in my life that was pretty consistent. And if they would tell me that that's not true, then I would be able to give them multiple examples of why they're lying. But that's not neither here nor there. I don't think. I think for me, I'm a very matter of fact, tell it like it is type of person. I don't typically hold my punches, but what I've been learning lately from DD PD is like using more discretion in even when you choose to correct or when you choose to give feedback. Not everything that you could say you should say, right? So not everything that I could tell about my family tree or the things that I've dealt with are for public consumption. Maybe some of that stuff should be saved for a book, or maybe it's something you should just sacrifice or submit to God and let Him deal with that, especially if it's something that's creating an issue in your life. So, yeah, I think when the enemy wasn't putting me in physical harm's way, because let's also be clear, there was a time where I was working full time and then I was going to school full time. And I often would fall asleep, but that's most people who work overnight fall asleep going home or something like that. I think that's just par for the course, right? But this time in particular, I remember falling asleep multiple times on my way home. I think I hadn't been asleep for like 25, 26 hours. I fell asleep on my way home, and when I dozed off at the light, and where I stayed at, I was gonna make a left. It was a stop sign, another stop sign, make a right, and I was gonna be like in the neighborhood. I was 4 or 5 stop signs away from my house apartment. When I woke up, I was going through the light and getting back on the service road. My foot had came off the brake, and I am going back onto the freeway. So now I have to loop around to get home. I loop around to make it into my apartment complex. I hit a bump, and then the other bump was maybe like 100 yards down. I hit the first bump, and then I don't remember anything else. I woke up in my car that I had just purchased. It was an Acura, like a It was like a 97 two-door Acura, great condition. I only paid $400 to a coworker at the time. It was beautiful, beautiful situation. Man, I woke up and that Acura was up under a lifted F-150. The car was smoking. This was like something off a movie. I thought I was finna die. I can't even die. I thought I was finna die. I thought that car was finna blow up. I'm like, I done seen enough movies, kinfolk. I know how this ends. But there was pride attached to that, right? There was this thing where it's like, I'm a man. I drive myself to and from work. I do what I want. I can handle this. I'm good. I don't need you to drive me to work because I was married, you know what I'm saying, at the time. And she would tell me, like, hey, let me take you to work. It's cool. I'll come pick you up or whatever. And I just wasn't going to do it because I wasn't going to do it. I was like 21, 22. You know, man, whatever. I'll drive myself. And I paid a penalty for it. So there are these great levels of pride. Like basically, the enemy will find a way to embed himself on all sides and find a way to harden your heart, to shift your mind, to even convince you, black man, because I know the experience of black men, even though this isn't my personal experience, he'll get you to believe that your life ain't worth living no more. So you should go get a gun and blow your brains out. That you should go take those pills. That you should go drive off a cliff. That you should go slit your wrist because you don't, nobody cares. Will cause you to get out of your car on the freeway to go fight a person, walk up on somebody else's vehicle who you don't know, and they got weapons galore in their car because the pride of you cut me off or you ain't gonna talk to me that way. We've been put behind the 8 ball a lot. We're not victims though. The resources are too great. The opportunities are too vast. You change the way you think, you can change the way you live. That's what I'm believing. I believe I'm just at a place now where I think I don't want to keep saying I think or I'm trying to get rid of those filler words as well. Working at getting rid of those filler words, but I definitely believe that I'm in a place, a good place that I've never been before. I've always been a curious person. I'll go down those rabbit holes of searching for information. You know, I got like a cabinet of good supplements, sea moss and Shilajit and all of these things, BPC 157, all of these things that I'm taking because I'm curious about how to better myself often. When I was right in the middle of making a decision on what I was going to do my second time around in marriage, and I decided I was going to go to therapy. And I made up in my mind that it wasn't about the betterment of the relationship. It wasn't about satisfying anybody. It wasn't about making somebody feel negatively about themselves. None of that stuff mattered. I knew that if I didn't start the corrective actions to better my life, things weren't going to get better. If I didn't do something about my attitude or about my disconnecting thoughts or whatever the hangups could have been for me at that season of my life, that it was going to be a continued perpetual cycle. And I just didn't want to live that way no more. I knew that there was something wrong. But that's just how I am. It's going to keep a lot of people single. It's going to keep a lot of people from growing and maturing and going to the next phase and level of life. Was watching Disruptive Thinking earlier with TD Jakes and Charlemagne. I never call him his full name because you ain't God. So stop. Respectfully, and I can work with you one day, but I'm not calling you that. But anyway, I was just watching him and I was enamored at certain aspects of how he viewed words, how he viewed the way you think and how you actually fit in based off of those, certain dynamics. And man, I don't want to be a victim anymore. I don't want to play victim. Um, One of the things that my therapist said to me, and I don't be caring, y'all. I mean, I don't think I've ever said anything on the internet. My thing is, I'll tell on myself, and I just ain't worried. If it's something that I don't want to say to the internet, then I'm just never gonna say it. I'm not gonna. I mean, I'm trying to think what I'm trying to say. I just ain't worried about it. Like, it's my life. There are certain things that I will keep very close to the vest, but it's very few things, right? And so I was telling people, a few people that are close to me about the session, and I was saying that at one point my therapist spoke very highly of me, very, 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 very highly of me. He talked about how smart I was, and basically he said, "You're way too smart. You got too much to do to be living a life of mediocrity." And it just I started crying out, because you if you never realize that the enemy has been seeking to sift you like wheat, shout out to Peter. Um, if you never know that the enemy is seeking to sift you like wheat, you'll think everything is fine. Or you won't have an issue with not even knowing why you feel the way you feel. And it didn't bother me that he said that, because I've thought that of myself. And I remember it was a video that I put out, and I said something about I'm no longer accepting mediocrity, right? This was like a few years ago, maybe 2.5, 3 years ago, something like that. And it was a declarative statement, right? Whole time I was living a mediocre life. And it isn't always about what you have, even though having things is good and it's cool and there's nothing wrong with it. Everything isn't about what you have, so to speak, like monetarily or whatever. But you are supposed to have more. One of the things, and now I remember what I was going to say about TD, because that what I said wasn't fully what I was trying to say. He said that there's a study that says by 2050 or something like that, the average mean income for black people will be zero. And he said pretty much what that means is that the middle class will be non-existent, and it will only be the haves and the have-nots, the rich and the poor. And I don't I don't know if Lashonda caught this. I literally got up and start setting up this. I was like, I gotta set this equipment up, folks. Like, the inspiration that I get from things in life come like that. They happen fast, because I understand that if nothing changes drastically in 60 from 60 days to 60 months, you're gonna be one of those have-nots, and there'll be nobody to blame. There's no reason why over X amount of time why you didn't choose to take money and actually feed it into Bitcoin or blockchain or Apple or ETF, Vanguard, VTO, VIO, or whatever, VOO. Like, nobody's gonna be the blame for you choosing not to make better choices with your life. But I don't think that we often think past. I'll say it this way. I won't say that. I'll say it is hard to think about perfecting your backstroke and you're just trying to not drown. And that's a reality that most people can hardly ever see past. I remember my partner said, "Man, have you ever thought about what your ideal life would look like? Like if nothing was like just terribly wrong, and if you actually got things that you wanted out of life, what your ideal life would look like?" And I said, "Absolutely not," because I've always only been concentrating on surviving. There was no time to think about thriving. When you're just trying to make sure that your rent get paid, or when you're just trying to get some groceries in the house, or when you just trying to make sure that you get an oil change before your motor blows. I mean, it's real. And it's like, if you look, and I mean, it says 4 people are on here. If you are on here, man, appreciate you for tuning in. As always, please hit the like, please subscribe. You know what I'm saying? There's plenty of dope things that come to the channel. The view is usually a little better, but my camera battery died, so we need to fix that problem quickly. Um, but but yeah, man, I just think if we looked up for the 5 people that is showing is on here, there is something. There's absolutely something in your life that you know this ain't getting better, or I need to change this immediately because I know me. And if I don't do something about this now, nothing's going to get better. Nothing's going to change. My relationship is going to continue to be bad. My kids are going to continue to fall below where they should be. My prayer life is going to be non-existent. I'm not going to open up my Bible. I'm going to continue to watch. I'm going to scroll on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube until it's time to go to sleep. And then I'm going to get up and do it all over again. There's a blockage. And that's why for me, the therapy, the language, it helped to unlock me. I'm a person that believes I can think through most situations. But what I wasn't realizing is that when it stays up here and it never comes out in a conversation or wrote down on paper or put into an action plan, it's an unresolved feedback loop in my mind, especially when what's up here doesn't equal what I see out there. So I've learned so much from just even going to therapy, from just even being intentional about having conversations, having tough conversations. Not just here, but here. The biggest struggle, this is church flow, but this isn't to just say, "Oh, look, Christianity is so amazing," and "Oh, God is so good." And the reality is, the biggest struggle that I have in a relationship is my relationship with God, specifically the Father aspect of God. Because I can't say that I've had many healthy relationships with the men that I could see. So how does that translate to the one that I can't? Those are the conversations that we don't have. Those are the realities that we don't realize that we live in. How well do I trust the God of the universe? Even though I know he sits high and looks low, and I know that he owns a cattle on 1,000 hills, and I know that I'm co-heirs with Christ, and all of those great things that people can say, that can quote scripture, and they could tell you, well, God is good all the time, and all the time God is good, and it doesn't necessarily translate to how you live your life. The abundance that we're supposed to see as God's children. Myron Golden says he believes it is our birthright to live in opulence. That opulence is our birthright. We're supposed to experience life a certain way because of our daddy. I was thinking about this literally when I was thinking about recording tonight, and I was thinking of an analogy. It's like I see my relationship with God is like, it's like, man, my daddy's stronger than all y'all. Y'all daddies ain't stronger than my daddy, bro. Like my daddy's he really like that. And they like, oh yeah? Well, where's he at? And I'm like, oh man, I don't even want to bother him. Yeah, I'm just let him do his thing, man. He probably busy. And so for the other four people who may have been on here at a certain time, I just hope that in some way it triggers real thoughts, real conversations, um, real realities for people. Because what are we doing half the time? Men, do we have life insurance? Can I lay my head down tonight and know that I gave everything I was supposed to give to this day? I had to go help do some stuff before I started recording. I wanted to start on time, but it just didn't happen that way. And I knew possibly the later I record, the tougher it's gonna be to maybe get and capture people's attention. It's a Saturday night. People probably going to kick it, hang out with their families, go to the club, get ready for church, whatever, right? But it didn't matter because at the end of the day, what I gotta do is what I gotta do. And I'm not gonna make excuses. I can no longer be disobedient over what I know I'm supposed to do with my life. The most dangerous thing that could happen to me, the most sad thing that could happen to me is not just dying. It's dying and not experiencing the Jesus moment. It's dying and not experiencing the Abraham moment. It's dying and not experiencing the Isaac, Abraham, Jacob. They all died fulfilling their purpose after they fulfilled their purpose on earth. If I go tomorrow, Lord forbid, and I didn't accomplish what he set out for me, it's the biggest failure. It's a bigger failure than not leaving something for my children. It's a bigger failure than a lot of things. So for me, you have to know that this is far beyond a like, a share, or a subscribe. All those things are important. They help. You know, one of the guys I watch, Showbiz the Adult, man, he's a dope streamer. He's just a dope what he do, man. I literally watched him stream for like 5 hours. He literally watches pro fights and he commentates them. You can't see the fight, but he's commentating. But then he also starts telling stories. He also starts cracking jokes and extremely funny, talented guy. And I'm like, man, I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to hold people's attention for that long. You'll have 1,000 people in this chat. People just, they send in $100 super chats, $200 super chats, $50 super chats. I want to do that. Not just because the money would be good and a way to supplement income, but because I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I belong in the media space. So I didn't go beyond maybe 14 years old because I think a lot of the intentionality of the enemy goes so much beyond physical ways that he tried to harm. A lot of the times, like I said, I think the enemy was trying to tear belief from you in yourself, in the God you serve, in the people around you. Believe more than a skin color than in the humanity of a human being, which I think that might mean the same thing, the humanity of a human being. But anyway, so yeah, for me, I believe that God is he's gonna orchestrate it. Doesn't mean everything's gonna just shift overnight, but it could. Darius Daniels talks about the concept of the quantum leap, and so much of it is about putting yourself in a position for God to open a door or to accelerate the time, the growth. It exponentially happen, but you have to be the type of person or align your life in a way where God can give you the increase. And so, yeah, man. Do I have any questions or have any comments or concerns? Anybody of the three people, make sure you hit the like, please. Y'all be being so rude. Don't be rude. Take that big stank nasty finger of yours, this one or this one, and hit that like button. You feel me? Share it so we could increase the exposure. Thank you for anybody who tapped in with the kids tonight. Um, this is the church flow, man. I think a lot of the times, man, it does allow me to get in the space where I can encourage people, where I can teach a little bit, you know, and just kind of be real and raw as I normally am. Um, looking to do continue to do this. I'm doing it, so I'm just looking to do more of it. For those of you who may be knowing me from other shows, um, look, we're gonna be doing a bunch of stuff, dog. I got to start getting these interviews back popping. I have a Mind of a Man episode that I definitely want to put out. I just need to get it edited. I'm retired from editing. I'm sick of it. I hate editing at this point. Um, and I got a You Gonna Get These Sports Bruh coming too as well. So I got some interesting things to talk about. This is a network. This is the network. You know what I'm saying? And so I look forward to people who desire to hear me talk about a plethora of things. Got a new comment. Keep doing what you're doing. That's my man, Bruce Glass, as always, man. Bruce, I ain't stopping, man. And I think I've said that a lot of times, but I really mean it. I understand that, and I'll say this last thing and I'll get out of here. I'll say this last thing. But, and I said this on the Mind of a Man episode too, but y'all just watch that, just whatever. But I remember having this moment because I got fired. And I ain't got fired in a long time. But I got fired from my second job, right? I was working 17, 18-hour days. It is what it is, kinfolk. You know, so there was an increase that I experienced financially, right? But I think everything else around me went down. I think, I was able to, pay for babysitting for my kids and stuff like that, but it nothing beats being here on a Saturday night or a Friday night or a Thursday night or a Sunday morning with my kids where I have the energy to just hang around them or to make them breakfast or to take them to the park or whatever, right? Those things became virtually non existent or they would have to happen in very, very, very tight windows. Um, I was starting to fall asleep a lot, and sometimes it was quite dangerous how often I mean, this was the worst I fell asleep ever, where it's like every like 10 seconds I'm like hitting the brakes because I'm falling asleep, and that's just my body reflex, right? And I said to my boy, I said, man, I got more money, but now I don't got no time for nothing. And then I was like, I ain't gotta have no money, but I had a whole bunch of time on my hands. And he was like, pretty much, he was just like, man, that's the seasons of life, right? That's how that goes. And so you just have to execute what you need to execute in a season that you're in that position. Here's my first thing. I don't think I executed that season well. I bought some clothes and I did stuff for my daughter and I did some cool things, but I didn't execute that season the way that I should have or could have. I'll be honest about that. And it's hindsight, of course, a lot of it is like there still was a lot more bills than what I realized. It made me realize that like without a second job, it's like, well, how was stuff getting taken care of? Like, have you ever had a moment like that where you like, Sam, how is this making it? Like, what is going on? What I will say is no matter what was going on in life, I always tithe. I always gave to God what was his. And I believe that when you give him that mite, that little bit, He'll always do a little extra on your behalf. He'll turn the water into wine in that way. That's in that way he'll do the God multiplying. He'll do the exponential. But you have to put yourself in a position for God to do that. And so you at least start by not robbing him, right? But so the thing that I started to realize quickly as I because it was like the way that they were even like going about it was like, they talked to me about it because basically what happened is like I fell asleep for like, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes while I was at the job, right? I'm like, well, first of all, nobody here is working 17-hour days. So there should be some grace for this. Okay. I'm sorry. Like, no big deal. I'm just doing whatever I need to do, but whatever, right? And so the next day when I come into work, supervisor, not the supervisor, the head guy pulls me in the office and he's like, hey man, I just want to talk to you really quick. There was something about sleep or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I fell asleep yesterday in the back office. I'm like, wasn't my intention, doesn't happen often. I might have been lying about that, but I'm like, but it won't happen again. I got it. You know what I'm saying? Like, basically, I had like a week off from the first job, and I had like half a week off from the second job. So I was quickly trying to get back acclimated to being under that schedule again. So he was like, "No big deal. Appreciate your honesty, your integrity. You always seem to display a high level of character, or whatever, whatever." So people have gotten fired for that. Where they were perpetual offenders, right? So you just gotta be mindful of that. We don't want that to happen. I'm like, okay, cool. Never said it was a possibility that I was actually still gonna get fired, right? He never said that. It just was what it was. I also was still within my 90 days. My 90 days were like 2 weeks away or something like that. So I'm like, okay, bet. I go to work. The next day, I was supposed to show up to work, and he was like, he I think he texted me. I was at my first job, right? I was supposed to go back to work that night. I was at my first job, and I'm delivering. There's that eidetic memory. I literally remember the street I was walking on, the house I was at. So he texted me, and he's like, hey, yeah, like I said, he actually made this part up. Like I said, things are kind of happening on the fly here. We actually need to take you off the schedule, and we need you to come in to talk to whatever the HR department is, right? And I'm like, y'all finna fire me. Y'all think I'm stupid. What you gonna take me off the schedule for if you gonna fire me? Like, what you gonna take me off the schedule for if you're not gonna fire me? Like, you need the bodies. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's an overnight job. You need all the help you can get. So in my mind, I'm thinking to myself like, oh, they finna fire me. And I was on the phone with my partner. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like, here's the funny thing. So let me parenthetically pause right here, right? The funny thing about that situation was maybe a month before I this happened, I just had like a weird feeling like I ain't gonna be here. Now I wanted to be there. If it meant I gotta run my face into the wall so that I can get some excess, so I can get me some McQueens, you know what I'm saying? So that I could be able to anytime my daughter I had to give my daughter something for school, right? And then she was like, "Oh, I just realized it was another $30. I'm sorry." I was like, "Say less. I'm glad I got it to give." Um, so it was very much worth it for me. And there's something very gratifying for any man to push yourself to limits that you didn't imagine yourself going to. So so anyway, so yeah, so I had this feeling, right? I'm telling you, I had this feeling like it just was something wasn't easy. Something wasn't sitting right with me. And so as I'm getting closer, I'm even asking questions. I'm like, hey, is there anything I could do better? Now, mind you, this was before, the falling asleep thing, but I'm like, is there anything I could do better? Is there any comments or questions or, anything going on? Ah, man, you're doing a great job, man. Just keep doing what you're doing. Actually, don't go so hard. Like, listen, man, they know it's only us here. Like, you good, right? And I'm like, yeah, right. I'm gonna go hard because that's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm built to do. And so I remember being on the phone with my partner, and I was like, yeah, bro, they're gonna fire me. You know what I'm saying? And he was just like, this is why I love this dude. I think he was more taken aback than I was. It actually wasn't as much of a surprise to me. If anything, I think I was surprised that the feeling was like actually gratified or justified by I actually didn't stay there 90 days. To this day, I still say nobody there outworked me. Not the manager, not the supervisor, nobody. Nobody outworked me. I'll go do I'll walk all the floors by myself. It's cool. I'll go make sure that all of the doors or whatever get locked. I'll go do all of that stuff. No problem. And I won't complain. I worked by myself like 5 times. One of the times was in my first week being there. So I just thought it was like, the only thing was that I was like, it's very strange to me that somebody who has dedicated as much as I have to this job thus far in showing up, because I need my chochos. It ain't even got to be about no dedication to the job itself. It's like, no, I like the money, my boy. So I'm gonna show up to work. If it's just me, it's just me. I actually like that better because I can just go as I need to go, and I ain't gotta worry about nobody. But you know, so basically, I couldn't make it up there, and so he basically called me and was like, "Hey, yeah, we actually are gonna have to let you go." And he was like, "I'm sorry it happened this way. Appreciate you, this and that, blah, blah, he gave me the speech, right? And I'm like, hey, man, it's perfect. Because I had told him from the beginning, I said, listen, it's okay. If y'all trying to let me go, I'm not mad about it. Like, I understand. You're saying cardinal sin. You fell asleep in the back office where no cameras were for 5 minutes. You're a bad boy. Okay. If that's fireable, given the value that I truly believe that I added, I'll take that on the chin. And it turned out that they believed that. So we just moved on. Maybe there was more to it than that. Maybe there was more to it than that. If it was, I don't know. But I wasn't tight about it. I was shocked. I was kind of down for like a day and a half. And then I moved on. Yeah, I moved on. But this is what I took from it. This is a space where I actually can do really well. This is something I'm actually good at. I'm actually gifted to speak. I am very verbose with words. That is easy for me. I believe that I am very entertaining. This could be a little more heavy and so you just find your pockets. But like I said, I'm recently just was able to become monetized, so I can do super chats and super stickers and memberships and stuff like that. So there's opportunities there, right? It's like you don't have to do 17, 18-hour days like you did when you were working at the second job, but you were very disciplined to get up and get there. I overslept one time. It was like 10 o'clock. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be there. Let me get up. Let me get my wits about myself. I'm gonna be there. Show up for yourself like that. Feed. Give yourself that same type of hunger and desire to succeed, to be fruitful, to execute, and then see what I do for you. See the quantum leaps. See the doors that open. See the ways that are made. But you're not gonna do it if you're just sitting on your hands over at Do Dirty House playing Madden all day, acting like I'm being constructive. What you good at? Robbing. For those of you who aren't familiar with the culture, that's Baby Boy. You know what I'm saying? But no, seriously though, it's like feed into your own business, feed into your network, because God ain't gave everybody the idea for the network and multiple shows that you can execute on a weekly basis. I don't have everything that I need, but I got everything that I need. It's up to me though. It's up to me. So I'm not, not trying to make light of anything. I've taken a blow. Child support is a blow. Okay. It is a absolute. Hey, come here real quick. Close your eyes. What is that? Punch you in the nuts. That's child support for sure. It just is what it is. And I ain't mad because I love my kids, and hopefully it is helping their lives. You know, but it's a blow to your finances. A job in It is a job where um you don't know if you're gonna work overtime. It's discretional, right? So it's not. All I'm saying is you would be a fool not to figure out a way to create extra. You should. You should be able to work with your own hands as a man. The Bible instructs you to be quiet and to work with your own hands. My partner just went to Colorado for his birthday. And he had one of his close friends there. He had some other good friends there. And it's like, I want to go to Colorado. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to go pull up with my partner and enjoy life a certain way. I want to get married again, and I want to bless my family, and I want to go take trips, and I want to live in a dope house, and I want my Porsche Taycan Sport GTS. You feel me? I want those things, not because I'm selfish. Guys wired me to dream a certain way. So I'm gonna put my head down and put my hands to the plow. You gotta stop saying, "Oh, I'm gonna try. Oh, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to get up and get in my word. I'm gonna try." Like, that is not a definitive statement. Try is not a definitive statement. Are you doing it or aren't you? That is actually a pet peeve of mine. Do not tell me you're going to try. Do it or don't do it. Say, "No, I'm not going to do it," or "I'm going to do it," but don't live in limbo with I'm going to try. I'm going to try to record more. Therapist said that if I continue to seem unstuck in some way, at some point he's going to want to introduce like psychotropic meds. And I said, I have a stigma against it myself, but if I don't get better in however long your time frame is, I'm open to it because at this point I don't want to be stuck anymore. I have to walk in the fullness of who God said I am. I cried when he said, you're too smart and too talented to live in mediocrity, because I know I'm living in mediocrity. I know that there's so much more to who God says I am. So it matters to me that I do that I accomplish that I become that. Because it's mine already. I said this, I've said it a few times, but I'm not wrong about me. I know I'm special. I know I'm gifted. I know I'm talented. I know I'm called. I know I'm chosen. But if I never do anything to watch that come into fruition, then what is it all for? To know you're gifted or to have certain gifts or talents and to do nothing with them, to sit on your hands, whoop de doo. Bruce Wayne Glass. And I'm glad I just put this comment up because, bro, one of my favorite movies, like top five, all time. Love Jones, Boys in the Hood, Dark Knight Rises, Bane. I love Bane. Oh, I love Bane, dude. That character. Perhaps he's wondering why someone would shoot a man before throwing him from a plane. That's my movie, bruh. So just so you know, I'm not a huge Batman himself guy, fan, but I love the Batman series. That one with Christian Bale and Bane is amazing. That's my personal favorite, but the Joker one is better. It just is. It's phenomenal in every sense, the acting, the execution. But my boy Bruce Wayne Glass said, nothing wrong with wanting or having dreams. Absolutely. The Bible says it has an issue with selfish ambitions. Yeah. So, you know, you need ambition. And that's what I love about Darius Daniels. You got to check him out. He's like, you can't grow spiritually if you're not ambitious. How you gonna get better in the word if you're not ambitious? If you're not working diligently towards it? How you gonna better your relationship with God if you're not ambitious? Like, but it applies to everything else. I gotta, if I want to show up to work on time every day without excuse, I need to be ambitious about it. If we're gonna be a better friend, if we're gonna be a good husband, father, I have to be ambitious about it. So absolutely, you're right, Bruce Glass. Um, so yeah, man, I do have things that I want, but overall, I want to walk in the fullness. It matters. Um, and having people like y'all who listen to me ramble on for 2 hours, mind you, most people can't do this. That's the funny part. Everybody wants a podcast. Everybody wants to be a guest on a show, but you can't do stuff like I'm not ignorant to what I'm good at, right? I'm not. I don't have any notes. There's nothing. Only thing I looked up was diligent, and I knew what that meant. I just wanted to have a more clear definition. So I know who I know. I just know. Even the therapist, he was like, "I'm not telling you nothing you don't know, you haven't heard before." He's like, we just got to get to the next level." So anyway, this was good for me. Hope it was good for you. This was very therapeutic. For anybody that even dares to watch this and makes it to almost a second hour, God bless your life. For real. I hope that this is something that somebody could take in and find enjoyable and challenging. Make sure you share this. Next time I'm gonna tell y'all, man, share this with 3 people and then put done in the chat. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing, for commenting. Thank you for always supporting Ammo. You know what I'm saying? Anthony Moore, for those of you who don't know for sure. Um, we gonna fix this camera situation so we can keep giving you quality visual content. And I hope, how does the mic sound, sidebar? Since it's just us girls on here, how does the mic sound? I mean, I'm not saying can you hear me or can't you hear me. I'm saying, does it sound pretty good? Because I don't want to do another show ever without having this quality, if it is in fact quality. So just checking, just tapping in with y'all to see how the sounds. But if our hearts and minds are clear, as I end every show, I love you. May the Lord keep you. I'll see you next week. Literally, I'll see you next week. Peace. Y'all have a great night. Love you.